أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم إلى قيامة يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، يا غريب كربلاء. رزقنا الله في الدنيا زيارتكم وشفاعتكم في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه وقرآنه المجيد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فوربك لنحشرنهم والشياطين ثم لنحضرنهم حول جهنم جثيا، ثم لننزعن من كل شيعة أيهم أشد على الرحمن عتيا، ثم لنحن أعلم بالذين هم أولى بها صليا، وإن منكم إلا واردها كان على ربك حتما مقضيا، ثم ننجي الذين اتقوا ونذر الظالمين فيها جثيا. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من يصلي على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have gone now into our 7th night in these discussions of what happens to us after death, and now we are at the point, having discussed many of the previous chronological things, of course not all of the things that happen to us in between death and tonight's lecture, but tonight's lecture, inshallah, we will be focusing on one of the final things that happen to us on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and that is the Sirat and its valleys or its stations. First and foremost, a few housekeeping things. There were some things yesterday when we were talking about the scales that did not get completely covered, and so we'll bring that up today. Who exactly has been sorted and does not come to the station of the Sirat? Who has been sorted already out when it came to the level of the scales, and they are no longer with the rest of the people who are still being sorted out at the level of the Sirat? Meaning, they have no more chances, they're already kind of being taken to Jahannam. Who are those people, brothers and sisters? They are those whose deeds completely were nullified. I know many of us have questions, for example, well, okay, we know what's going to happen to us maybe, but what about everybody else? What about people who are maybe from a different religion? Maybe they were good people, but they had no religion, right? So we need to kind of see where those people drop off, or what happens to them. Are they even given another chance? Some people are given another chance. We'll look at those people later tonight. Some people, unfortunately, like in the game shows, they're sent home, right? Except over here, the final home for them, for those people, is the worst of abodes. It's the worst of homes, and that is Jahannam. Who are those people? The Quran says that there are 4 or 5 different things that could have happened in this life. If any one of those came, something called hubut. Hubut means that it is a complete zeroing out of the account of deeds. It is a complete reduction from, you could have had some good deeds and now it is absolutely worth nothing. Reduction down to zero. A couple of acts that could have done that, hubut happened completely to their deeds. What are those deeds, brothers and sisters? We find first and foremost the act or even belief of shirk. Shirk, probably all of us know, because it is the cardinal sin, it is the number one sin in Islam that is unforgivable. What is that sin? In plain English, to associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, of course, there are categories of shirk. The shirk al-akbar, that everybody knows, okay, yeah, fine, you don't go and worship idols next to Allah. You don't go and make others at the same level as Allah. This is something that we as Shīʿā are many times accused wrongly of. And there are many things that we can do to go and prove that those who accuse us are wrong. That's not the, intention of tonight's lecture. If someone from leadership, if we could kind of have the volume even a little bit louder, because I can hear from the Arabic side starting to interfere. And if I can't hear myself, then I can only imagine what you guys are able to do. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's have another louder salawat in honor of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So, actual shirk, the shirk al-akbar, this is something that we can identify very clearly. For us maybe, we who are the elites, we know that we're not doing shirk, at least in that sense. We need to be a little bit more aware of shirk al-khafi, the hidden shirk. This is the kind of shirk that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said that this hidden type of shirk is harder to identify than a black ant on a black rock in the pitch black dark of the night where there's no moon, no stars. It's harder to identify than that. So if we have those kinds of things, we need to be a little bit more well versed in our literature, the Quran, the Hadith, and see if we have maybe those kinds of problems. This goes back to yesterday where we were talking about muraqabah and muhasabah. Always trying to do a little bit more, always trying to see if we could have done a little bit less sins. So shirk is number one. Number two, what else completely zeroes out the account? Whether or not you were a very good person or not, whatever deeds you brought with you, all of them have zero weight attached to them. We talked yesterday a lot about the weights. What else has no weight? If you do kufr. If you do kufr, meaning if you have completely recognized that this is part of the religion, maybe you understand it, maybe you don't, but you say, no, I reject this, having known that it is authentic, and Rasulullah or the Imams, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself in the Quran is asking this of you, and you reject, kufr is something that can completely zero out your actions. Have no weight left. Why? Because you willfully rejected something that you knew. Not you rejected something that you were maybe a little bit unsure of. No, it's okay to ask questions, but if you become convinced, now you don't have any excuses. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 5, that these things will be the deeds will be completely zeroed out. What's number 3? If you do irtidad. What is irtidad? Basically, if you become a murtad. Okay, I explained an Arabic word using another Arabic word. What's the English? The English is basically if you completely leave the religion. If you have become convinced, not just you say with your lips, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and then you leave. No, no, no. In your heart of hearts, you are absolutely convinced that this is the truth, and after that, for some reason, you leave. Yeah, that's going to be a one-way ticket too, having no weight at all attached to your deeds. Zeroed out your account. Okay, so that's 3 out of 4. What's the 4th and final one? Surah Al-Kahf comes and says in ayah number 103 through 105 that if you reject the ayat of Allah, This can be the actual ayat of the Quran. This could be rejecting any of the imams of Ahlul Bayt, any one of the correct imams of Ahlul Bayt. This could be rejecting any of the ayats of Allah. If you reject the ayats of Allah, may Allah save any of us from going down this path. Or if you completely reject such a thing called Yawm al-Qiyamah, no man, this is all hoax. There's no such thing as Yawm al-Qiyamah, this isn't going to happen. Okay, having that belief, zeros out of your account. So these people do not make it with us to the next station of Yawm al-Qiyamah that we're going to be discussing tonight, which is the Sirat. Those people do not make it. They don't have any good deeds. They're completely hopeless and they go their way while we go towards this bridge, the Sirat. Maybe some of you know it in Urdu as Pul Sirat or Sirat al-Pul, right? These are different names for the same reality where we have a razor-thin bridge, right? What is the Pul Sirat? It's a razor-thin bridge, sometimes as sharp as a sword's edge, sometimes as thin as a hair. You're telling me I have to go and walk on that? Yes. We'll analyze tonight, inshallah, in the upcoming segments of tonight's presentation, 7 different valleys or stations where we will be stopped and asked about various things in our life. And then we'll look at who does intercession, who qualifies for intercession, as well as what are some things, some a'mal that I can start doing from now in my day-to-day life, in our Islamic calendar, that can help me when I get to the bridge of Sirat. So first and foremost, what is Sirat? Sirat, many of us have even, maybe when we contemplate, when we're reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, we recite, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide me to that path that is upright. Sirat al-mustaqim, as we'll see, is exactly this Sirat, that is the road to Jannah, which has been stretched over hellfire itself. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there is none except that you will have to enter it, we'll look at this ayah as well. The ayahs that I looked at the beginning when I recited them in the Arabic portion, when I recited those ayahs, we'll look at exactly what does this mean, to enter Jahannam. Why do we all have to enter? Right? And does it have anything to do with this bridge? As I'll eventually, inshallah, towards the later parts of this presentation show, yes, it is exactly this bridge. Because it is Sirat al-Mustaqim. Yes, it is a bridge, but it's not just any bridge. Metaphorically, this was also the bridge that you were walking on this whole entire time in your life. The bridge is nothing other than the manifestation of how you did in this life. Meaning, if you want to be safe over there on the Sirat and not slip off of it and have to go into the hellfire, which is underneath, then don't slip with regards to religion. Where does the Sirat become narrow? When choices in this dunya become hard. And it becomes very hard. Am I going to do the right thing? Or am I going to do what my culture wants me to do? Or what my parents want me to do? Or what X, Y, and Z want me to do? Maybe my friends, peer pressure. Am I going to do what they want me to do? Or am I going to do what my religion wants me to do? So for example, I'll give you one example that for those of you who are married, maybe you went through this. If you haven't been married yet, then you have this to look forward to. It's not fun. Especially if you're trying to do the right thing and observe your religious obligations. When it comes to having a halal wedding, for example, there are many, many traps that shaitan sets. And if you fall into them, don't be surprised when you get to that portion of your life. Maybe you get to 30 years out of a lifespan that is 100 years in this dunya. 30% of the way, right, because 30 out of 100 is 30%. 30% of the way on the Sirat, don't be surprised if you slip on your wedding day, you might slip over here on the Sirat. Does everybody understand how the Sirat corresponds to my life here in dunya? Yes? So now let's go back to the wedding example. If I go to the day of my wedding, and I start to slip up, let's say, for example, I don't see the wedding day as a day of ibadah, a day where Allah has answered my prayers and He's finally given me someone for marriage. Many of the brothers, many of the sisters, maybe you have a hard time where you're having a hard time maybe even meeting the right person. And maybe if you found a couple of right people here and there, you're like, okay, well, what are my next steps? I don't know how to go to my parents, go to their parents. What is the halal way in the West in 2023 in Texas, right? How do I go and approach this very important matter? Well, I'll at the outset go and say that whether it's in Q&A or in discussion tonight, any of the other nights, you can come and ask me, okay? I'll tell you what worked for me, okay? I've been through that fire, and I didn't slip, and alhamdulillah, I'm on the other side. So if I can be of help, then it'd be my pleasure to go and help any one of you. But for example, maybe some of us have told ourselves that, okay, we'll just have a DJ, we'll have some music, and then afterwards we'll go and do some tawbah. This is what the brothers of Yusuf also went and said. We'll go and kill Yusuf, we'll go and throw him in the well, then we'll become righteous people, we'll go and do some istighfar and some tawbah, go and get the masbaha, the tasbih and everything, and do some couple thousand istighfar, we'll be good. We're supposed to learn from both Yusuf, right? We're supposed to learn from his brothers as well. Don't become like them. So don't come and think that, oh yeah, this is by the way the mentality of shaitan. Yeah, go ahead and just do the sin. Later on, Allah is Ghafur Rahim. Later on, once you've done it, then you start thinking, how is Allah ever going to forgive me? Might as well just give up and forget about all this, right? Neither of those thoughts on either side of the equation are right. First and foremost, you shouldn't just say, yeah, let's go and do the sin so that Allah will forgive us. How about you just stay away from the sin? That way you don't have to worry about will Allah forgive me or not later on, 2 minutes later. And then in that situation of 2 minutes later of forgiveness, don't ever become despondent of the mercy of Allah. Allah will forgive everything, as long as you ask for forgiveness. Okay, so now you come to the wedding day, and for example, maybe it's not your parents. Of course, all of our parents, mashallah, they're the best of the best, right? Maybe it's the parents of the other side, or some aunt and uncle who are like, your cousin's wedding had dancing. What will people say? This phrase in Urdu, I'll go and say, "Ye log kya kahenge," is probably one of the most detrimental statements in the youth's life. Now, for those of us who have evolved past this statement, and we're like, who cares what my cousin will say, what my chacha and chachi will say, who cares what my uncle and aunt will say? I care about what Allah will say, I care about what baby Zahra will say, I care about what Al-Fadl Abbas will say, I care about what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will say. Sallu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Let's have another loud salawat for Fatima Zahra. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. If my priorities are set correctly, and I care about people who I'm supposed to care about, then it becomes very easy. If I care about culture, however, and this phrase of log kya kahenge, what will the people say? Yeah, then I'm in for a world of pain over there on the Sirat, because all I have are slips here and there. This is where the path becomes narrow, brothers and sisters, where it becomes narrower than a hair, narrower than the edge of a sword, because no one else is going to come on this path with you. Everybody has to come on this path alone. It's you and Allah. If you were able to go and safeguard your religion, then guess what? That small little path is as wide as can be, because you know what you have to do. If not, if you slip here, that equals to a slip over there. So now, let's come to what else we can expect over here. And when it comes to the wedding, before I move on from that example, sometimes before the wedding you need sabr. Everybody, of course, knows that after the wedding you need sabr. That person who you used to love and is the light of your, and the joy of your eyes, you're going to need sabr with them, right? But sometimes even with your parents, sometimes even with the other side, sometimes with aunts and uncles, cousins, whoever has a say, all these chefs are in the kitchen and they all want to go and throw in their mirch and masala into how your wedding is supposed to go. And the last people who have a say is Muhammad and Al Muhammad, the Ahlul Bayt. Yes? Here, if you have sabr, and you don't erupt at those family members, then we have some good news from the Ahlul Bayt. That those of you who have sabr, you will not be made to wait on Yawm al-Qiyamah. You who waited with your wife and had patience. You who had patience with your husband, you who had patience with your family members, with your parents, with your children, whatever stage required patience, if you became of those who were the sabirin, those whose quality, whose second nature developed into becoming a patient person, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, you think I'm going to make you wait? Just like how I made you wait in the dunya, I'm going to make you wait on the akhirah? No. You get to cut in front of everybody in the line. You may have been one of those people who had sabr when people cut in front of you in line. Now everybody else will have to have sabr as you cut in front of them in line. Yawm al-Qiyamah, if you haven't figured out by now, is a place not only of the balances and the mizan, but it's a place where we will be balanced out. What do I mean by balanced out? I mean that those people who were arrogant over here, they will be humbled. And the people who are humble in the dunya, they will be elevated. They will have lots of things to be proud about. Now look, come and read my book. Right, as the Quran says. It's a day of opposites, where things that were out of balance over here will finally be put into check over there. If you had your wedding, your marriage, your raising of kids, and for those of you who are not married, your childhoods, your youth, if you had that in check, then the beginning portion of your Sirat will also be in check. And as we've mentioned even in the other portions of Yawm al-Qiyamah, for example, the books of deeds, which was 2 nights ago. The scales of deeds, which was last night. Today, the Sirat. Does Tawbah have anything to do with whether I will still fall, whether I'll still have to account for it on the scales, whether I'll still have to see it and everybody will have to see it in the books of deeds? Yes, Tawbah does come in, and it plays a huge aspect. But what is the difference, brothers and sisters, between Tawbah and Istighfar? Istighfar is where you just come and say sorry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Basically, you're like, can you just cover for me? And, inshallah, I won't do it again. Tawbah, if it's done correctly, means to completely turn and have a 180-degree shift. Where you don't just come and say sorry, you say to Allah, Ya Allah, from now on, I'm coming your way. I know I was going the opposite way of you, but from now on, I will be coming your way. That's the tawbah. If you can do tawbah and you completely leave that sin, and you completely leave it, and you are able to come on the path of Allah, this is what tawbah is. This is what will completely save us from having to slip on the Sirat, having to, for example, account for those deeds when it comes to the mizan, and see those deeds being reenacted when it comes to the books of deeds. So, now I want to come to something that really perplexed the Mufassirin. We've already explained, and I won't go into this scary hadith, because I don't want to be labeled as a scary one. I just want to make sure that everybody's able to safely get into paradise, right? But in this one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he describes hell being brought forth on Yawm al-Qiyamah, he says that over it will be drawn a bridge. In some of the hadith, multiple bridges, multiple sirats will be drawn, one after the other. And we'll look at what exactly each of these valleys on the Sirat is. We'll look at what exactly we have to be careful of when we come to this portion of Yawm al-Qiyamah. But first and foremost, when it comes to hell, there is a passage of ayat that I'd like to recite, but this time, because we've already done it in Arabic, and because we're running short on time, in English. What exactly do these ayat have to say, and what's the problem that the Mufassirin had to solve over here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and for those of you who are following along at home, this is Surah Al-Maryam, this is the 19th surah, from ayah number 68, up until ayah number 72. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then I swear by your Lord, فَوَرَبِّكَ, we will surely gather them with the shayateen, and we will surely bring them around hell on their knees. Okay, so far so good. Nothing really that needs to be interpreted. Then from every group, from every single Shīʿā, from every single group, we will draw whichever of them were more defiant towards Ar-Rahman. Meaning the worst of the criminals will go and draw them out from each and every single nation and draw them out. We'll analyze this drawing out and what exactly this means with regards to the Sirat. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then we surely know best those who deserve to enter it most. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the ayah that we're going to be focusing on. There is none from any one of you, none among you, except that you will have to enter it. وَإِن مِّنكُمْ إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا, ayah number 71. كَانَ عَلَىٰ رَبِّكَ حَتْمًا مَقْضِيًّا. This is already a decided, certain matter with Allah. Does that mean that I have to enter hell? All of us have to enter hell? We'll see what the Mufassirin have to say. Then in ayah number 72, ثُمَّ نُنَجِّي الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا. Then we will save those people who had taqwa and leave inside the wrongdoers inside it. Okay, so now, Mufassir number one, who we're going to be consulting and asking, is Allama Tabatabai, who we've consulted a lot in this series. Allama Tabatabai says that this wariduha means that, okay, just like how the previous ayah said that everybody will be brought around it, everybody will just be brought around to the edge of hellfire, but only the bad people will have to go in. Pro over here, let's look at the pros and cons. Pro of Allama Tabatabai is, okay, the good people don't have to go into hell. The bad is, the word itself is wariduha. You have to enter it. The other ayah, 72, comes and says, then we'll save the people who had taqwa out of it, and we'll leave the bad people, the zalimeen, inside of it. So there's one pro and two cons, linguistic and the ayah itself. The context shows that people were inside. Mufassir number two, Nasir Makarim Shirazi. What does he have to say in Tafsir al-Namuhi? He says that no, the Arabic means that we have to enter it. And so each and every single one of us will enter Jahannam. What's the pros and cons of this one? Pros, okay, we understand that everybody will have to enter it, just like the ayah says, and you're absolutely correct, the Arabic word means enter. Ayah number 72 says, we'll save the people of taqwa and we'll leave the rest inside. Okay, but the con is, why do the righteous people have to go inside? The people of taqwa, why do they even have to go inside hell for, the first place? Ahlul Bayt, the prophets, why do they have to go inside? Fine, maybe we're sinners. Why do they have to go inside? So here's the con of Nasir Makarim Shirazi's tafsir. Enter the discussion Ayatollah Jawadi Amali. What does he have to say? He reconciles all of these and it's just pros. There's no cons. So far we've had cons of, well, why does the righteous people have to enter it? Or what about the linguistic or the ayah's context? Ayatollah Jawadi Amali comes to the rescue. He says that what we're all entering is Jahannam, not Nar Jahannam. He sees a subtlety of what Allah Ta'ala says. He says that there's a difference between Jahannam and the fire of Jahannam. Interesting. Now we come back to that hadith of Rasulullah where he says that the bridge has been, stretched over hellfire. It's over hellfire, but that atmosphere that's still above it is still technically considered hell, Jahannam. So Ayatollah Jawadi Amali says, yes, we will enter Jahannam, but we will not necessarily be in the fire of Jahannam. The ayah is very specific in Surah Al-Maryam that we just have to go through Jahannam. And this corresponds with many of our hadith. For example, one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallu alayhi wa ala salatikum, please. Another louder salawat in honor of the holy household. Here we see that the Prophet narrates a hadith where he says, people who are in Jannah will be asking, didn't Allah promise us that we'll have to go through Jahannam? And it'll be told to them, you did go through it, but the fire was turned off while you were going through. Another hadith where the Imam says that hellfire, you know how in Surah Al-Qaf, hellfire is talking? Another speech of hellfire, according to the Imam, is hellfire will call out to the believer, "O believer, traverse even quicker over me while you're on the Sirat, because your purity cools my flames. So go faster so that you're not cooling my flames." These are all in conjunction and all in line with what we've just said from Ayatollah Jawabi Amri. So, now that we've completely understood over here this ayah of Surah Al-Maryam, now we have to see, well, what exactly are the 7 valleys or the 7 stations that our Imams have told us about to watch out for, and all of these correspond with something or another from our wajibat here in dunya. What are they? First and foremost, in our hadith, there's a 3-for-1 in the first valley. 3 things that we asked in the first valley. If we have deficiencies in any one of these, we can expect a slip. And we'll come to these slips. How do people come out of the slips, and how do they get back on the path onto the Sirat, and how do they make it through? We'll come to that after this, inshallah. But the first of these stations of the Sirat, according to our Imams, is Silatul Rahim, meaning being kind to your near family, especially your parents. And we'll focus a little bit more on this when we come back to the station by station breakdown. Number 2, still we're on station 1. We're still at this first valley. What else besides the Silatul Rahim? Any amana that was given to you, meaning any trust that was given to you, how did you handle that trust? Number 3, the wilayah of the Ahlul Bayt, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. So, go ahead. Even louder salawat for Silatul Rahim, brothers and sisters, quickly, I want to touch on both sides, parents as well as kids. Yes, we as kids have to be good towards our parents. Yes, we have to go and try to keep our relations intact with them. Yes, there are ayat. That was scary. Not as scary as the slip of Sirat. I mean, this is an iPad, right? It's Apple. You know how these things break, right? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For kids, we have an ayah that I want to touch on, which is وَخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكُمْ لَهُمَا مِنَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Lower the wings. Mics, right? When we have our parents, we have to go and lower the wings of rahmah towards them. This is an idiom, and I want to go and touch on this just a little bit so that we understand what exactly this idiom means. It means that when you grow up and your parents still treat you like they're masoom bacha, right? They're a small little kid, right? Even if you grow up, they still treat you like this. Even if you become married and you have kids, and their grandparents, your parents, treat you still like this, and it's embarrassing. What is this metaphorical bird spreading its wings? See, when the bird was young, it was completely reliant on the parents for its rizq. Mama bird would come with the worm, feed the baby bird, and the baby bird is happy. Once it grew up and it learned how to fly by itself, now it's ready to go and spread its wings. I don't have to be here. I don't have to go and take this. Who do you think you are? I can just drive away. I can do anything that I want. I can just go and spend time with my friends. Now, of course, birds don't drive. They don't spend time with their friends. This is us. If we start to have that kind of attitude, we're going against what the Quran wants us to act towards our parents. This is not for any parent to come and use that ayah and use it like a club to go and beat their kids over the head with. Like, see what Maulana said? See what the Quran says? No. This is for you as kids to understand yourselves and then do towards your parents. Now, here's what you're not supposed to use as a club to go and beat over the head with your parents, and parents aren't supposed to, Parents are supposed to come to the realization themselves and act like this towards their kids. What's this on the other side of the equation of the seesaw so that we have a balance? What does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He says, my curse is on those parents who make it hard for their kids to keep Silat Rahim with them. If you are an overbearing parent, and you make things hard for your kid, for them to even be able to keep the simple salam and wa alaykum as-salam alive, my la'na on you if you make your kids so miserable that they can't even do that. Brothers and sisters who are kids, this is not for you to go and beat this over the heads of your parents like a club. See what Maulana said? Just like how they're not supposed to go and use the other verse and the other ayat over your head. This is for you, when you are parents, to inculcate into yourselves and to make this your second nature, that you are not overbearing as parents. Likewise, as kids, you are not supposed to go and say, oof. You are not supposed to go and be raising your wings and saying, I don't need to go and deal with this. Right? I don't even need to go and live here anymore. I'll just go and find an apartment to rent. Of course, birds don't have apartments. This is still us that we're talking about, right? Let's have a request with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad to come closer as we have more and more people coming in. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Silat Rahim, and also the sisters, if you guys could also, I see more sisters coming in, so if you guys could also bunch up together and kind of make more room. We have some sisters and brothers. Brothers and sisters who are in the second gymnasium, please, we have room over here, please come this way. If you don't have some kind of a medical problem or a back problem, of course, I'll look for a doctor's note, right? But otherwise, no chit chat over there, please come over here. That is distracting, and we ask all of you to come here and join us in this hall. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second thing that I want to speak about very quickly is about the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. Amanas is not so much of a, hopefully, if someone trusts you with an amana, you better take care of it like it's your own belonging. That's all I'll say about the amana. Do not treat amanas lightly, because this will be asked about when it comes time on the Sirat. But that third thing in the first valley is the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. This is something that we see in many of our hadith where Rasulullah ﷺ says that no one can pass on the Sirat unless they have a document stamped with the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And of course the rest of the imams, the 12 imams. If the person does not have that document, they will be asked, where is it? Where are your documents? Similar to when we are at border patrol and we're going to Canada, or probably over here. I mean, I'm from Michigan, right? For me, the border over there is the northern border. You guys are over here in the south, so if you guys are going to Mexico, the southern border, right? Where are your documents? Come on, we need to see this before we let you in through this point of entry. Similarly, people who do not have that wilayah will be stopped. And we are told that if you are stopped at any one of these stations on the Sirat, on Pul Sirat, it's anywhere between 70 and 80 years, meaning a lifetime here in dunya, where you will be stopped and you will be asked, وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ Surah Al-Safat says, stop them, they need to be questioned. And we've been quoting this ayah as well in the past couple of nights. ثم لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ, right? عَنِ النَّعِيمِ, where you will be asked that day about your benefits. Imam Salih alayhi salam came and asked Abu Hanifa, what do people think that these na'im are, that they will be asked about? He said, like food or water that was, someone gave at Hajj, these, water that was given on a cool day or something like that. Imam Salih says no. The debate is long, he disproves that. Says, what is it then? Abu Hanifa asks Imam Salih, what is it then? Imam Salih says, it is us, Ahlul Bayt. They will be asked about us. We were that ni'mah, that we were sent after Rasulullah to keep them on Sirat al-Mustaqim. They will be asked, what did they do with us? Did they ask about us? Did they stay on our path? Or no? If not, they will be asked. Here, brothers and sisters, as I mentioned at the beginning of the majlis, many of us have questions. What will happen to those who were not on our path? Here, there are many of our brothers and sisters who do not have the wilayah. It's no secret that if even if we take the most liberal of counts, we as the Shi'as account for 25% of the Muslim population, and they account for 75%. They meaning our brothers in the Sunnah wal Jama'ah. If we take conservative amounts, then they are 90% and we are 10%. What happens to those people when it comes to the Sirat? We do not discount their bad deeds. I mean, their good deeds. Those will be taken. When it comes to the Sirat, we need to have full iman. And if they had anything that was deficient, we'll be asked, where is it? 70 to 80 years, brothers and sisters, is metaphorical for however stubborn they are. It could be 3 seconds. Some of our brothers and sisters who are in Ahl Sunnah, they have a deep love for Ahlul Bayt. And for them, it's just a matter of a few proofs here and there, and they will come. Some of these nationalities, they don't need to be named, but we know them to have a sincere love and a hope for Muhammad and Ali. Other nationalities, it's quite the opposite, where they will come out in droves and they'll say kafir, kafir, Shīʿā, kafir. Without even mentioning which country that was. You all know which one it is. Others will come and arrest Shīʿā clerics, or even Sunni clerics that come and are honest with history, and they'll not only imprison them, execute them, and persecute their families. It's not easy being a Shīʿā. Those people will be asked. And they'll be given that chance. If they get to the Sirat, are you going to accept or no? As defiant as they want to be, as stubborn as they want to be, in Urdu we call it ziddi. As ziddi as they want to be, that's how long they'll have to stay over there. Now, personally, I think it's much easier to just go and accept it over here. If you are convinced and you have the proofs, and the proofs have been there, brothers and sisters, the proofs are online, the proofs are in many well-written academic books. There is no more excuse. Go and study and then choose for yourself. Now, if you're not convinced, yeah, that's a different discussion. But if you were convinced and you didn't accept, you will be asked that day about Ahlul Bayt. And this is the station. Once they are ready to accept, remember, Sirat over here is very narrow. You don't want to slip over here. Can you stay? Can you stand on that little hair? Can you stand on that edge of a sword for 70 to 80 years? I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But what's reality is reality, and I can't change that. What's the second valley? After the first valley we said was Silatul Rahim, Amanat, and the Wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. The second valley is namaz, salah. Many have this understanding that the first thing that will be asked on Yawm al-Qiyamah is the salah. And at another station, yes, that's true, but salah will come back to haunt some of us. Did you do salah? Did you have qada? If you knew you had qada, did you do those qada? If you had some kind of a deficiency in your wudu, did you ever come back and ever do those years of qada? Did you treat salah as something that was important? Remember, Surah Al-Ma'mun, it comes and says, وَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Woe to those who are prayerful, those who do prayers, but they're inattentive to their prayers. Inattentive means what? What, that you just leave it to the last moment? That's one meaning, yeah, to do it completely qada. Another meaning is that you just completely make up your own thing and you call that salah. Brothers and sisters, salah is not spiritual yoga. You don't just have the option to go and do some cartwheels and backflips and something and say, Ya Allah, just accept this from me. No. You need to go and pray the way how Rasulullah prayed and the way how the Ahlul Bayt preserved it. If you didn't, then we've already mentioned in the previous nights. I see a lot of faces who weren't here in the earlier nights. I mentioned over there, and inshallah, we'll re-record that lecture. That lecture was not, unfortunately, recorded, but I mentioned over there, don't just leave it to some salih, awlad who you have, some righteous walad, some, offspring that you have to go and just do it for you. Leave a will. If you leave a will and you say, this is how many salahs that I have left, this is how many zakat that I was missing, this is how much khums I was missing, this is how much sawm I was missing, the fasts I was missing, I maybe was not able to do hajj, maybe I wasn't able to go and return people's debts to them. All of these things, make sure you have it in a will, because if your sons don't do it, and maybe your children don't do it, your grandchildren don't do it. Maybe they have some money that they inherited from you. They have to go and use that to go and hire someone who knows how to go and pray to correctly make up your missed prayers. Okay, if they don't do that, maybe you leave behind kids who don't even care about religion. Brothers and sisters, I'm seeing that again, we have a lot more people who have come. Please, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, and let's bring people, even from the other gymnasium, come over here into this gymnasium, join us, and also make room. It's okay if you come and sit over here, it's okay, you're not going to get hurt. I promise, I don't bite. And for those of you who are off towards the atraf, the edges, come closer towards the middle. That way we can go and make more room for those who are coming in. I don't know why. The time is pretty clear. It's 9 o'clock on the thing, and people are coming at 10:05. I don't know what you're expecting to hear, but thank you for coming anyway. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So what was I talking about? I was talking about Prophet Ibrahim or something, right? I'm just kidding. It's Salah. So Salah, if we're not going to be, attentive towards it, then be ready to be passed over here. What's the third station? What's the third value, brothers and sisters? Zakat. And by the way, zakat, most of the time in the Quran, it's a categorical term. It also encompasses what Surah Al-Anfal, ayah 41, calls khums. So if you had something missing in your zakat, which is on 8 things, go ahead and just look it up online. What 8 things are zakat due on? It's not the time or place for this majlis. Khums. What is khums due on? Go ahead and look that up. That's, many seminars have been done. It's not my place or time. If those are not accounted for, be ready for that to be questioned on that day, for you to be stopped. Brothers and sisters, there is a huge problem that Surah Al-Baqarah acknowledges that the Muslims will have. The Muslims, more than the Jews, more than the Christians, will have a problem with money. Whether it's borrowing money, whether it's, giving money, whether it's giving sadaqah, all of these things, there's going to be some kind of either a psychological or the actual act of giving money. Brothers, please, we need you to come here. Again, like we mentioned, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We need you to be over here. No more sitting over there. Let's have Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Yes, we mentioned that these things, zakat, money, it is a hard thing for the Muslims. Be sure that you are not one of those things who fall into Shaitan's traps. If you fall into Shaitan's traps, what have we been making the allegory of? If the Sirat is Sirat al-Mustaqim over here, as soon as you slip off of Sirat al-Mustaqim and you go into the traps of Shaitan, or you go into the traps of dunya, what is that the equivalent over there? You're slipping off of the Sirat over there into what? Save yourselves, brothers and sisters. Save yourselves and your family from a fire. Go and tell your families that, hey, this is something that you're doing wrong. Better to go and fix it over here than be asked over there on that little skinny bridge of hair width to go and make it up over there. Can you imagine going and doing ruku and sujood and still doing this acrobatics, this tightrope kind of circus act or whatever? Save yourselves from doing this. Just go and fix it right now. If it's not going to be, this is what, every time someone goes and sits over there and I have to go into a salawat, I keep on forgetting what I was going to say. But what I was going to say is, if you didn't have someone to go and make it up for you here in dunya, then guess what? You have to go and make it up in barzakh. If you didn't make it up in barzakh, what do you think you're going to have? Because these wajibat, they're going to be asked. Allah wants them from you. He's not just going to be like, it's okay. Let it be. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask for it on the Sirat. You're not getting into Jannah unless you give that to Him. So it's better right now, while there isn't a fire underneath us, while there isn't an angel who's looking at us, hey, you have 20,000 salat to go and make up. Just do it now. What are you going to miss? Call of Duty? You're going to go and miss, what are the other games that you guys play? Fortnite? Right? Astaghfirullah, how does Mulana know this? These things, if they become your distractors, and you're not focused on that long term, just get to that destination. Just get to Jannah. It's a few things that Allah's asking you for. These few stations that He's going to come and ask you about. If you just go and take care of it over here, you don't have to worry about it over there. But This is the trap of dunya. Where too many things are shiny, you have a start point and you have an end point on the racetrack. If you can just keep your focus from the beginning of the racetrack to the end of the racetrack, and remember that your goal is the end of the racetrack, and stop looking at the cameras flashing and some things like a shiny penny that's on the floor. Can you imagine how stupid someone would have to be in the Olympics to go from, to go to the Olympics and run in these huge, whatever, meter dashes. Someone like Usain Bolt. And he sees a shiny penny on the ground. Wow. Can you imagine he stops and he picks that up? This is the equivalent of what the angels look at us. They're like, you got distracted by this? Are you kidding me? You have Jannah. You got distracted by some dunya thing, like going and earning things, maybe in a haram income. Sometimes that penny might be glued and stuck to the ground. Some of us, we might be going after rizq, and it's not happening for us. Let Allah take care of the rizq. You worry about your religion. Rizq, Allah said, is in my hands. You take what's in your hands, which is your religion, and you meet me. I'll meet you over there. So now, zakat was value number 3. Value number 4, Sawm, fasting. If this is something that's deficient, guess what? We're going to be asked about it. Number 5, Hajj. We need to do Hajj, brothers and sisters. There's one wajib Hajj. Even if you read these hadith, which are valid. Visiting Imam Hussein is the equivalent thawab of 1,000 Hajj and 1,000 Umrah. Fine, but that's the thawab. You still have to go and do the wajib thing. You still have to go and do the wajib Hajj. Who is Hajj wajib, my brothers and sisters? The mustati', the one who can, both with health and with wealth, make it. Like I mentioned the other day, right? If you have a money cannon, you can just blast it at the Saudis and be like, please let me in now, right? $60,000, please let me in, right? If you're able to go though, it becomes wajib, you have to go. So now, the Hajj is something that is necessary, and I'll leave it to the 5th classes to go into what are the punishments if you don't do Hajj. These are the things, by the way, brothers and sisters, these are not anything new to us. Oh my God, wow, I had to go and fast? I had to go and do zakat. I had to go and pray. These are things that we've been learning since Sunday school. Now I'm telling you where that thing will finally come back to bite you if you were negligent. If you were negligent. But if you paid attention, this will be your best friend. Your salah will come personified and it'll be there to help you. So we said that value number 5 is Hajj. Value number 6 is Tahara. Tahara, brothers and sisters, if you don't observe your cleanliness and make sure that you are in a tahir state, many of your a'mal, they don't become accepted in these kinds of states. Brothers and sisters in that other gym, again, please, no more sitting in that gym. You need to come over here to this gym because over there, too many people come and do chit-chat. So we need to come over here. For those of us over here, please let's also move a little bit forward. They might see over here that there's no more room, so we need to show them that there's room. Please come a little bit forward, and it's okay if you squeeze yourselves a little bit, if you're sitting in a little less space, but we need to make room for these brothers and sisters who are just coming. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. 2 things to mention very quickly in Tahara, brothers and sisters, what our hadith have mentioned. Number 1, staying in these unclean states. For example, janaba. And I'm not going to define janaba. This is one of those terms. Go and ask your parents, go ask online, go and ask a Maulana. This is not something that I can go into, okay? Janaba is one. Do not stay in janaba for too long. Number 2, for our sisters, hayd, istihada, right? The monthly cycle and what comes after it. Once it becomes time to do the ghusl, do the ghusl. Don't stay in it because you need to go and start doing your prayers. Yes? That's number 1. Staying in it too long. Number 2, if you didn't do it correctly. Brothers and sisters, if there's something that you really should go and look up tonight after this lecture, stay in my lecture. If you're on YouTube, just finish the lecture. We only have a few minutes left. But afterwards, go and find out how to perform ghusl correctly, how to perform wudu correctly. There are many shuyukh who are on YouTube who have gone online. They've done it with their kids on the video camera. The kids are embarrassed. They've done it for your benefit. Now, if you're not even going to go and take advantage of these videos, then what do they do it for? Go and search these videos up. Learn from them. Do exactly what they're doing so that you have no deficiencies and you can come and say, hey, I just did it how that Maulana did it. I did it exactly how they did it. Then you're safe. Yeah? Is that too hard? It's a 2-minute video to go and watch how to go and do wudu. Let's correct these things, brothers and sisters. Otherwise, tahara, the penultimate, the 6th of these valleys where we will be stopped and questioned is about tahara. And finally, brothers and sisters, rights. Madhalim. Here, either it'll be both actually. Either people will have deficient the huquq that were due to Allah, or the huquq of ibad. What do these Arabic fancy terms mean? It means the rights that were due towards Allah, the rights that were due towards your fellow man. If you had something deficient in either of these relationships, vertical or horizontal. Why do I say vertical or horizontal? Because of a hadith of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Ali was on his way to the battle of Siffin, and he was about to mount his horse. A Jewish man came to him, and he saw that Imam Ali he's in a hurry. He said, "Oh, Abu al-Hasan, explain to me all of Islam." All of Islam? Says Islam is two things: your relationship with Allah and your relationship with people. Vertical and horizontal. If you have deficiencies in your vertical, right? Let's say you did your salah, you did your this and that, but there's still something deficient in your relationship with Allah. Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. Your Lord is waiting at the ambush. He's waiting to go and confront at that final stage. If you come through all of these other valleys, finally you will have to go and deal with Allah. There were some huquq, some rights of Allah that you had to go and make sure you were doing. Brothers and sisters, just go and do a quick 5-minute Google search, or even just go and ask your Bing AI and your Chat GPT and your Google Bard. Go and ask them, hey, what are my rights towards Allah? I'm sure even these AIs will be able to go and tell you, right? And then the huquq of the ibad, the huquq towards your fellow man. For example, if I had a right that my brother gave me, or it was due from me towards him, but I didn't fulfill it, or maybe I wronged him. This is why, brothers and sisters, the hadith of Ahlul Bayt always say it's better to show up on the Day of Judgment as the oppressed rather than the oppressor. Why? Because when you come as the oppressor, now is that time, and this can be positive for us and this can be negative for us, where if I wrong someone, they can ask me for repayment. They can ask me for something in return for where they wronged me. For example, maybe a tyrant, maybe a tyrannical leader killed a person. Now the child of that person even has something against that person. Not just the person who was killed. The child is like, because of you, dictator, you killed my father. I grew up without a father in my house. The rizq was harder to come into my house. Sustenance was harder. We had to go and do so much. I want my rights from you. Now, the US dollar, the Iraqi dinar, the Chinese yuan, none of these have any meaning over there. So what's the currency over there? Good deeds and bad deeds. Brothers and sisters, I'll quote one example for you from our imams, just to go and show you the severity that Allah takes seriously the rights of people. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you usurped 1 dinar, 1 gold coin, 1 dinar is equal to 10 dirhams, 10 silver coins. 1 dinar, if you stole that, on the Day of Judgment, at that 7th and final valley, on the Sirat, what's the payment? What's the exchange rate? 7,000 accepted salahs. 7,000 accepted namaz. Now me, hopefully, inshallah, I even have 7,000 accepted namaz this year. That's like a year's worth of prayer. I only lived, some people, they have a life of like 20 years, some people 30 years, some people 70, 80 years. Are you ready to go in for a single dinar? Go and give that up? Be very careful with your relations to each other. If you have something that you know, that you, maybe when you were young, you stole, you did not do right by that person, what can you do right now? Right now, go and try, this is why even before you go to ziyarah, before you go to hajj, try to seek those people out and ask for forgiveness from them. If you ask for forgiveness from them here, you won't have to worry about it over there. That's number one. If they don't give forgiveness, or maybe they've died, maybe you can't find them, they moved somewhere else, go and take some sadaqah, take some charity, and give it on their behalf. That way when they come and they say, hey, you stole, I didn't know that you stole it from me, and it was something so trivial, You can go and say it. I went and put $5 in the donation box. It's okay. I went and calculated what was the worth of that. I don't know. What do you guys care about? Pokemon cards? I calculated the worth of that Pokemon card that I stole when I was young. I went and put the value of that into the sadaqah. It's in your name. I don't have anything to do with giving my good deeds for you. Brothers and sisters, safeguard your good deeds. Don't just let them be easy picking for anybody. How do they become easy picking? If you have a lot of people who you wronged. If you were rude to people. If you were, just making fun of people. If you went and really wronged people. If you were the oppressor in any way, then the oppressed person who you wronged, Allah will give them the chance to come back and ask for what they are deserving. Rights, brothers and sisters, are just one of the things that was violated on the 10th of Muḥarram. We see that many of those who died... Oh, I'm sorry, there's still one more thing. With your permission, brothers and sisters, if there's one more thing that I can... A hopeful thing. Give me a loud salawat if I'm allowed to continue. Okay. First and foremost, we know that there's something called Shīʿā. There's intercession. I'll go quickly, okay? Who is eligible for Shīʿā? We're going to look at Surat al-Muddathir, ayah number 38 through 48. They ask, what threw you into succor? They will say, we were not those who prayed. We did not feed the needy. Anything that was haram, we dove into it, and we used to call the Day of Judgment a hoax. Who are those who are eligible for Shīʿā on the Day of Judgment? Those who do the opposite, meaning people who prayed, people who fed the needy, people who forget about diving into the haram things. They stuck as much to what Muhammad and Muhammad, the Ahlul Bayt, they did. Stay on their path and you'll be fine. And finally, don't call the Day of Judgment a hoax. Consider it a reality. Why do you think I'm doing this series of the Ma'ad, where we've started with death, then Barzakh, then Yawm al-Qiyamah, then we'll go into Jannah and Jahannam, so that it becomes real for all of us. Don't call this a lie. Realize that all of these things are real. They will happen to each and every single one of us, just as real as we are all here today. So, who does Shafa'ah go to? The Ashab al-Yamin. We already discussed who are Ashab al-Yamin in depth. It's not who everybody thinks. We've discussed that in the 5th lecture of this series. And the people of the right are the people who are the true followers of the Imams. And Shafa'ah, brothers and sisters, it's not for everybody. Think about it like this. If you have a cane, think of Shafa'ah as a cane, a walking stick, a cane. A cane helps someone who had 2 feet that were working. But now maybe they have some deficiencies, they have some health problems or whatever, and now they need a cane. It's not going to help someone who only has 1 foot and the other foot, he's hobbling along with that, peg leg or something like a pirate. It's not going to help him. He needs to have 2 full legs, and then that cane can go and help him. Can you imagine someone with 1 foot and a cane? How's that person going to walk? Therefore, brothers and sisters, when you are constructing your body over there, don't leave anything with holes or deficiencies or the ugly look. Make sure that everything is taken care of over here so that all those salahs can be constructed into a good, well-shaped person. And finally, what are those a'mal that help us on the salat? Very quickly, and then we'll commemorate Hazrat Qasim, inshallah. On the night of 1st of Rajab, these, brothers and sisters, you can do this on any 1st of Rajab, but you don't know if you have any more 1st of Rajabs left. Listen to this and take this to heart. For those of you who want to go and take out your phones and write this down, or you have a pen and paper, write this down. Between Maghrib and Isha, on the night of the 1st of Rajab, meaning the night of the month that just ended before Rajab, there's a 20 rak'ah thing, meaning in 2, 2, 2, 2, like Fajr. Up until you have 10 of these, right? 10 times 2 is? 20. Cool. You guys can down some of your math. So in these 20 rak'ahs, what am I reciting? 1 time Surah Fatiha, 1 time Surah Al-Ikhlas. What is the reward if I do this 20? In that night of the 1st of Rajab, between my Maghrib and my Isha prayers, what's the reward? Me and my family. You and your family will be saved from the punishment of the grave, and you will cross the bridge of Sirat like lightning, without any accounting, without any questioning. All these stations, these valleys that I just said, namaz, zakat, salat al-raham, amanas, all this and that, Now there's a deeper discussion. I want to have that discussion with you in the Q&A, but we don't have time right now. All of these things, you can avoid the questioning. Just do some of these a'mal that the Prophet and the Imams have taught us. Number 2, fasting for 6 days in the month of Rajab. The reward is, on the Day of Judgment, you will be at peace and you will be able to walk on the bridge of Sirat without account. Can you fast in the month of Rajab, 2 months before Shāʿ Ramadan? Can you fast 6 days? Yeah? Easy? Or too hard? If it's hard, God help us. But 6 days I think is easy, right? They made it easy for us. Finally, number 3, the final thing. Going to the ziyarah of the man buried in Mashhad. Who's buried in Mashhad, brothers and sisters? Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. Imam al-Rida says that if you visit me in my life or in my death, I will come in your time of need at 3 junctions. The final of those 3 junctions is when you need help at the Sirat. This is, by the way, how, when we slip into the hellfire, we call on those imams who are on the sidelines. We call towards Rasulullah. Can you give me a hand and pull me out? They will pull you out. You will be saved. You will come back out. If you have those 20,000 namaz to keep on doing, they'll pull you out. You can resume your salah over there until you go on to the next part, right? God help us if we have all 7 valleys to go and stop at. So let's try to reduce our own burden on the Day of Judgment. But now, brothers and sisters, on the 10th of Muḥarram, there was one such personality who had attained all of these wajibat, and he had moved on. He could see these realities of barzakh. He could see these realities that the Prophet had promised. Such a young, beautiful, handsome boy, the son of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, by the name of Al-Qasim. Al-Qasim, our sources tell us, our authentic sources tell us, that he was somewhere between the age of 14 and 16. Young, beautiful boy. Imam Hassan alayhi salam on his deathbed told him, "Oh my son, you will be my shabih. You will be my representation that day on Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the Yawm of Ashura, of Karbala, when your uncle needs help, don't let me down." You find that every single person from Ahlul Kisab, from the Panchtan, everybody had someone to represent them. Someone who looked like them, someone who was there to remind everybody of them. Whether it was Rasulullah, his likeness was Ali al-Akram. They all used to say that when we wanted to remember the face of Rasulullah, we would look at the face of Ali al-Akram. When it was Fatima al-Zahra, Zainab came and gave that final aman and delivered that trust to Imam Hussein. When it was Imam Hassan alayhi salam, it was Qasim. When it was Imam Ali alayhi salam, it was Abbas, the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And for Imam Hussein, he himself was there. And some, maybe they say, to represent Imam Ali, it was Imam Hussein, and to represent Imam Hussein, it was Abbas. Whichever way we want to take it, all of these 5 had someone to represent them. Imam Hassan sent Qasim to go and represent him. But it seems, brothers and sisters, on that day, on the 10th of Muḥarram, when he came and he asked Imam Hussein, "Please let me go and fight in that Maidan, in that battlefield for you," Imam Hussein said, "My son Qasim, perhaps your mother will become alone. You remind me of my brother Al-Hasan. You remind me when we were kids, you look so much like him too. What a loss it will be for me if I lose you, Ya Qasim. You are so young. Please don't go." Qasim is disheartened and he goes towards his mother and says, "Mother, it's time for that letter of my father, Imam Hassan. Give me that letter so that I can give it towards my uncle, Imam Hussein." Ramla, the mother of Al-Qasim, gives him the letter. He goes to Imam Hussein and says, "Oh uncle, I didn't want to have to do this, but please respect the letter of my father, Imam al-Hassan, your Imam and my Imam." Imam Hussein kisses this beloved letter of Imam Hassan, his older brother, his Imam. And he says, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Muhammad." Peace be upon you, O father of Muhammad, O Hassan. He opens the letter and he sees that Imam Hassan has said, "On that day when you are alone, O Aba Abdullah, O Hussein, don't bar my son from joining you. Don't let him not have that honor of defending you in Karbala. let me also have some honor, so that I can say to our mother, Fatima al-Zahra, that I also gave my kid, I also gave my son in the way of your cause. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, O Qasim, if this is what you want, I have nothing further left to say. My Imam Hassan, has already spoken. You have my permission. Qasim, it is said in the Maqtal that his armor used to dangle off of him because he was too young. His sandals were too big for him. He went in, and someone from the enemies of Allah went and sent his sons. He had 7 sons, brothers and sisters, that day, that he had prepared in the art of war to come and fight and kill Ahlul Bayt. These 7, one by one, from the oldest to the youngest, he sends to try and defeat Qasim. He says, this should be easy for you to go and defeat from Banu Hashim, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old. One by one, he dispatches each and every single one of them towards Jahannam. And Qasim has now enraged this father of the 7 boys. The father himself comes out and Qasim kills him, but Qasim is injured. Now that Qasim is injured, his armor and his sandals are disheveled. He bends down on his horse to go and fix his sandal. One of the enemies of Allah comes and hits him over his head. As he is distracted and he is fixing his sandal, he hits him at that moment. And he succumbs to these wounds, and he goes and says, Assalamu alayka ya amma ya Aba Abdullah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, all of the maqatil, they come and say that he came and he dove in like an eagle and he fought off the killer, Amr ibn Sa'ad. Not Umar ibn Sa'ad, Amr ibn Sa'ad. He came and he killed, he struck him at his elbow and he dislodged his arm. The people from Umar bin Sa'ad's army came to help Amr, and they tried to defend him, but unfortunately for him, their horses trampled the body of Amr, and Imam Hussein, after the dust cleared, he was seen mourning at the head of Qasim and saying, may Allah kill those who killed you, O Qasim. Now, I don't even have that final piece, that remnant that could remind me of my brother Al-Hassan. And he curses those who killed Al-Qasim. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون وسيعلم الذين أي منقلب ينقلبون.